Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
Welcome to another episode of Talking Grit. I am Jason Harwood. With me is Jacob Litton. Before we get started today, talking about the Monty news, I just wanted to, thank everybody for listening. I haven't heard from a lot of people in a while. So if you're got a topic of the show, have a guest, go to our summary, look how you can contact us. There's Twitter, there is email, old school email. Jacob, you remember that? We do that. Glad to hear from you. I know it's the slow type of the season, so if you got a show idea, we'd be interested to hear it. So, Jacob, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I just want to point out Jason also accepts letters in the mail. He prefers that.
I do.
He's not moved past it. He still has a lot of stamps he's got to use.
That's funny. I just mailed something out the other day, actually.
I bet you did.
Baseball cards and had to print out a shipping label. But yeah, you could use stamps too. That'd be cool. Old school way. Yeah. Slow mail. All right, Jacob. Big news this week. Let's get right to it. We're going to talk about free agency, obviously, today, because that we're going to start signing people next week. But the big news of this week was David Montgomery trade. What was your initial reaction? Let's just start there, Jacob. How did you feel when you first heard that he got traded?
Well, obviously, they danced around this for a long time, but right before then, they had the rumor that, Demo's looking to move on and that the Lions, are trying to get a day 3 pick for him. And then David Montgomery posts on Twitter for the first time in forever, contradicting the report, I guess. And, he put like, oh, Demo told you that. Which gave everyone a false sense of security, myself included. I was like, oh my God, like, thank God, the ESPN report is wrong. He's not looking to get out. He wouldn't have posted something like that. And then the next day, breaking news, David Montgomery traded to Houston. It crushing, man. Really, really crushing. Did not want to lose David Montgomery. And, that's just the initial reaction was crushed. What about you, though? I mean, did you get the alert at the same time I did? Did I text you before you got to it?
I think you hit the alert came when I looked before, but I didn't see it initially when it came out. But I saw I think you just sent me one word. It was shit. Like, I think that's what you sent me. And I'm like,
sums it up.
And so there could be a lot of things that we're saying that about. It could be something in the workday, something called off, just it could be a lot of things. But a lot of times for you and I know it's Lions related. So my first thought was, someone traded for Max Crosby and it wasn't us and it was someone in the division. That would definitely make, you might have
could be coming later. There may be another.
Yeah. You might have used a different word than shit though. I think if that would have happened. But yeah, I mean, initially, yes, I'm crushed that Dave Montgomery's gone. It's obviously very similar feeling to the Jamal Williams, the saying goodbye to Jamal Williams, thought he was a big part of this team. And then we upgraded with Dave Montgomery. And that would, that softened that blow. And then obviously he just came out and did what he did the first couple of years. We loved him. Obviously down year last year wasn't productive enough for him. And, I think the writing was on the wall that, they're going to want to get Gibbs on the field as much as they want, as they can. And that's going to limit David Montgomery. So that was my initial reaction. And then coupled with that is that we both initially thought, and I think everyone thought it was for our 5th round pick, right? Then I was really upset. I was like, 5th round pick.
That's a slap in the face. You couldn't get more than a 5th round pick. That really added to it. Salt on the wound.
Right. So then it came out that we got a 4th rounder, a 7th rounder, and then an offensive lineman, Juice Scruggs, that could play center, right? He could play guard. Is not as, we don't want to see him at guard. At least he struggled with the Texans at guard. Who knows? With better talent around him, maybe he'll be a little bit better at guard. But center, obviously, with Graham, we'll talk about him a little bit. We're going to need someone to be a center. I'm not saying that he's going to come in and be our starting center, but he's in that talk. He's in that competition. He's in that room. If anything, he gives us a backup that could play kind of like Graham all the way up and down the line. Cheaper contract too, certainly than Graham. So definitely happy with the compensation that we got. So bummed about the Dave Montgomery not being here. Bummed that our team is at this current moment not as good as it was before the Dave Montgomery trade. However, if we were going to move on for Dave Montgomery, I am more than satisfied with what we got in return. How about you?
Yes, I would agree. The 5th-round pick thing really was aggravating right away. But then we're losing David Montgomery and we're gaining 3 players, right?
Mhm.
4th round, 7th round, and then we're getting an offensive lineman. Maybe he plays guard, maybe he plays center. We don't know. They could be working very hard right now for Tate Ratledge to be practicing center, practicing snapping the ball, learning the ins and outs. They could have a plan that he is going to play guard. And kind of, like you said, maybe with Hank Fraley, I guess the Lions just putting more stock in the offensive line, caring more about the offensive line, and then coupled with, if you do put him on the right side, he's going to have Panay Sewell next to him. So I'm sure that would help anybody perform just a little bit higher. So,
yeah.
And he's coming into this completely, there's no sort of guarantee to Juice Scruggs. You don't even know for sure he's going to be on the team.
That's exactly right.
But he's got a fair shake, right? I mean, this is Detroit. The best player is going to play. You are going to get a chance to prove yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, he's a former 2nd-round pick, right? I mean, he's still, is he like 27
26.
or something? 26. So, I mean, he's young, still got the development. I think that was, part of the deal. Apparently Texans just do not like having any offensive linemen. They traded one earlier before that, and their depth was bad before. So what they're doing in Houston, I don't know. I feel bad for Dave Montgomery because who knows who he's going to run behind over there.
I know.
Could be tough sledding over there. We talked about the compensation, right? Like, okay, I was happy with it. So when you go back, I think it's really meaningful to go back and look at past trades, right? And so Jacob and I pulled 3 trades that in the recent history, like I think I probably went back to 2000 to look for running back trades. I think the one for me personally that's most comparable is the Joe Mixon trade. Joe Mixon traded in his age 27 year. Montgomery's 29, so Mixon was younger. You have his stats from that season, right, Jacob?
I do have his stats pulled just for comparison. That year for the Bengals, before he was traded to the Texans, Joe Mixon started in 17 games. He had 1,034 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns, and then couple that 52 catches and 3 receiving touchdowns. So 12 touchdowns that year. I mean, about 1,400 all-purpose yards. The year that he was traded to the Texans for a 7th-round pick.
Exactly. 7th rounder. They got a 7th rounder. We got that plus a player plus a 4th rounder for a 29-year-old. And I think that they're comparable players. I think Joe Mixon, Dave Montgomery are comparable players, especially when you consider Joe Mixon was 2 years younger. But you fast forward 2 years and Joe Mixon's hurt in his age 29 year, right? And didn't play the whole season. So
yeah, right.
You got that.
He could have. There were some outside sources. There's a lot of rumors that Mixon maybe could have played and wasn't as hurt as he let on. So
yeah. Well, yeah,
we'll
those
see.
are rumors. First, I want to say hi to Dan Pask. He showed up again, and he rightfully points out that Al Karsten, friend of the show, points that Scruggs' natural position is center. And I did read that article by Al Karsten. If you want to learn more about Scruggs, I definitely go to Pride Detroit. Click on that article. Al goes really into depth about Juice Scruggs and what he could, and if you want to know what his draft profile was, go look at that. It's very very useful information. All right. So the next trade that we looked at is the DeAndre Swift trade. So obviously we did that in 2023, traded DeAndre Swift and a 7th rounder. And then the Lions in return got a 7th rounder and a 4th rounder. So I would, essentially DeAndre Swift for a 4th rounder is how that works out. Now DeAndre Swift
was
hurt.
24. He was on the end of his rookie deal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was the last. Yeah. So I mean,
yep. And we weren't going to re-sign DeAndre Swift. He was constantly hurt here. But in the Eagles, he missed a few games with the Eagles. I think he played a majority of the season with the Bears the last couple of years. I know he's been maybe missed a couple of games, but it seems like he's been playing more. But he's kind of sharing that position last year. But I think, is he a free agent this year? Is Swift a free agent?
I did not see him any of my free agent rankings.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean
I'm
that
not
he's not
sure.
a free agent, but I mean he's definitely not towards the top of the crop of running backs.
And the last big, huge running back trade was Christian McCaffrey going from the Panthers to the 49ers. Panthers end up giving a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth rounder on that deal. So, Christian McCaffrey, obviously best running back in the league at that point. Health was a concern with him, and it still continues to be. But what he added to the offense, he's definitely was worth those second, third, fourth, fifth round picks. But in comparison, I think you got really good value for David Montgomery, a 29-year-old back who was essentially our backup running back.
Right. Absolutely. Time will tell. We'll see how he does this year, next year, as far as, like numbers wise, if it's going to be good. But I mean, on the surface, we definitely came out ahead. And bottom line, David Montgomery did not want to be here anymore. He loves
Yep.
Detroit, but he did not want to. I mean, that's what Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, everyone kind of talked about. Amon Ra on his podcast kind of said the same thing. Like, it sucks. Everybody's really, upset for ourselves, for us and the team and everything. Obviously, he's a good player. We want him here, but you got to kind of be happy for him to be able to be like, you know what? Here you go. Now you have the opportunity to go get those carries, do what you believe that you're capable of doing, and that you just didn't get a chance to do when you were here. I will say, if David Montgomery has some sort of all pro type season this year, it's going to look very bad on Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, for cutting into his carries the way that they did. And, obviously you feed the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs because of the type of player that Jahmyr Gibbs is. But the whole Sonic and Knuckles, fire and ice, keeping everybody fresh thing really worked in 2024. And then it just didn't work. We shied away from that in 2025. And that's what led to this.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. You and I are both happy with the compensation that we got. Do you think Brad Holmes was in the position that, what, we're going to just hold, David Montgomery may not want to be here, but we hold the cards, right? He's under our contract. Either he plays or he doesn't play. We're going to say yes to a deal that really works out for us, as opposed to, I would say, almost a DeAndre Swift type thing. We drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, and we didn't have the cards at that point. We're like, oh, this team needs to get rid of DeAndre Swift. So we didn't have any leverage in that deal. So do you think that the Lions were just going to hold on to him unless they got, I won't say blown away by a deal, but I think fairly, more than fairly compensated is how I would generalize this trade. So do you think that's what happened?
I do think that the combine happened, the GMs all talk of the combine. These things all come up. He maybe put out some feelers. Brad Holmes talking. You're right. We did not have to move on from David Montgomery. Of course, he wasn't happy, but he also had the thing where maybe Petzing made him a little bit, optimistic, I guess, about how the season may go if he stayed here. So it's not like it was 100% foregone conclusion. And I don't think that it was just like, hey, you know what? David Montgomery is on the block. The first team that calls will work something out. I don't think it was like that. Whereas DeAndre Swift, we probably were like, hey, we're trying to unload this guy. What can we get for him? Fourth round pick sounds good. Who's to say, maybe there were multiple teams involved in the pursuit of David Montgomery and we chose the Texans. There's also a chance that we talked, Brad Holmes, sometimes they talk to the agents. If the players, prefer one team over another, maybe they try to work a little bit more of a deal there, but that's really good compensation. So, I mean, maybe the Texans were just the highest bidders. That one would be hard to pass up on. You've got somebody that doesn't want to be here anyway. It's a running back, he's 28, 29, but he's aging himself out, right? I mean, you're a time bomb when you're a running back, especially when you're that style of running back as far as injuries and how everything's going to hold up. So I obviously wanted David Montgomery on the team, but I'm happy with what we got. And I feel like, a couple years down the road, we'll say that it was probably a better move for everybody involved.
All right. My next question is, and this is from a Lions organizational philosophy. Let's just go there.
All
Lions
right.
want to take care of their players. I think that they've shown that. Dan Campbell really cares about his players. You'd agree with that statement, correct?
100%.
So say Dave Montgomery came there and said, I want to be, I want to get more carries. Do you think the Lions looked at that and cared more about Dave Montgomery and like what he meant for us and try to take care of him than say, because I think we're a better team with Dave Montgomery here right now. I think that that's true. So do you think the Lions like took too much care about what the player wants and not what the team needs. Would you say that's accurate?
I don't think so. This is difficult because we knew as the season was going, like, what's going on? Why is Demo not getting the ball more? Why are we not utilizing him the way that we should? And it ended up being that way pretty much the whole year. I mean, obviously he had flashes and he had a few games where he had several carries, but for the most part, when he's out there, he is running the ball at the middle, he's getting a yard or two, and then we're moving on. Then it's right back to Gibbs. So we weren't utilizing him the right way. You could read on his face that he wasn't happy, right? I mean, as the season's going on, you can tell that David Montgomery's not happy. There's no way that they don't have those conversations. And, if they didn't, and it is just maybe going back to the Dan Campbell having too much on his plate, calling the offensive plays, not having a good enough read on the team, that's what I said, like, would look very bad on them if, David Montgomery still has 4 or 5 years of great running back play. I don't think that that's the case. And I don't think, bottom line, they had to do what was best for the team. Did we probably get a little bit worse off this trade right now? Yes. Are we going to sign a free agent running back? Are we going to draft a running back round 6, round 7 that might be as productive or meet that level of David Montgomery, this year or next? That's possible, right? And then you've got somebody that's 21, 22 years old that could be here longer.
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion, though? Do you think that we were looking out for him too much, or
It's hard to know. I mean, we don't know all the details, but it's just a thought that came to my mind. Like, it's a very tough thing to balance, like team needs and player needs, and like long term, you want to be a place that takes care of its players. I think that's an easier way to bring in players, but you also have to balance. Like, all right, do we have a window? And I don't think the Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell look like windows. I don't think they look at windows at all. And I think they're offended by the term windows. Like, they think if they're good at their jobs, it should be a perpetual thing. And I get that. That being said, you have contracts being due. We saw what injuries did to us last year. Kirby Joseph being one of them, a guy that we thought was going to be here long term. And now, we're wondering whether he's going to be able to play this year, and is his career over or altered in such a way that he's not going to be the impact player that we're used to. Brian Bryant, same thing, tore Achilles. That can be a tricky injury. People are recovering from that much faster, and that's good. But for a player that uses explosive, like, he needs to be explosive and have that, that jump, that may affect him, and he just might not be as impactful as he could be. So from that perspective, like, you gotta, you gotta take your best shots. But we did save some money. We got good return. So, I guess all that goes in the equation. And so I'm overall happy. Now, if we had to trade him for a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, then I would have been like, that's dumb. Like, why even
You're
do
just
that?
giving him away. Yeah.
Yeah. You're just giving away. Now, I know I like that we're acquiring some picks. I like getting the 4th and 7th rounders because we don't obviously don't have a 3rd this year, but now we have 2 4s. I think we have 2 5ths. Now we probably have 2 7ths. You couple some of those,
trade back up.
You could get back up, man. You could manipulate around. You can move around a little bit. Now I personally want, especially in the 3rd round, I don't want a project. We need to have someone that has, like, I mean, for what we need right now, you don't have to go for the highest ceiling. Like, sometimes a very high floor and a guy that's ready to come in and play would be really nice. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about this when we talk about the Rams in a little bit. So I don't want to get too far into to that talk. So I'm before we move off this topic, it's been 2 days since the trade, Jacob. Do you find that your feelings are the same, or are you just like used to it now and you're just ready to move on? Or are you still in the, I miss Demo and I wish he was on our roster?
It's still fresh. I still miss Demo, still wish he was a part of the team. But like I said, they're going to have to get some other running back here. They might draft somebody. We're going to have to, as the team moves on, you're going to be more excited about the season coming, and you're going to have to let it go. But you, though, I mean, you still holding on to that, or you kind of...
I did not like telling the boys that he was gone.
Yeah.
Bradley himself was, really upset about it. Preston, they're young and they don't get like the economics and like the team building. Like they're not like that far into it that they understand that. If I trade him, we said we trade him for Tyreek Hill, they'd probably have been super excited. You know what I mean? Just another
Right.
name player. Just that's how their mind works. Now they don't get into like what you can get with the draft and all that. So from that perspective, I do miss him. I do miss him being solid. However, if we were going to continue to use him the way that we used him last year, no, I'd rather spend that money a little bit somewhere else and also let Demo have his stuff. So another player we say goodbye to this week was Graham Glasgow. That was certainly on everybody's radar. I had been more shocked had that not happened, that it did happen. Saved the Lions about $5.5 million in cap space. First, do you think this is Grant? I think this is 10 years for Graham. Do you think he's done? Is he retiring, or do you think he'd go to another team?
He made his post like, to thank Detroit for everything like that, and he did not say that he was retiring. So maybe he tries to latch on somewhere, but I do think, his best years are behind him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's say the Lions could sign him for a veterans minimum deal or close to it. Would you be open to bringing him back?
I mean, he knows the offense. He knows, he's a good teammate, good person to have in the locker room, but not, not a great person to have on the football field. But if you need him in a pinch, I, equate that to almost like how Skipper's been the last couple of years. If you need somebody to throw in a spot that's going to, know the offense, is going to know what to do, yes, then we can have Glasgow back in there. But I think that's behind. I think we're getting younger and, potentially with the free agents and the draft and everything like that, we're going to have quite a few, interior offensive linemen.
Yep. Yeah, I'm in your boat. Like, yeah, if he could, like, if he was like, depending on our depth, I, practice squad. I just don't think that, I think he'd rather retire than do practice squad at this point. And unless he's like really attached to, Taylor Decker's last year and just wants to be, ride with him. I said last year, I'm assuming this is Taylor's last year, but, that could be in his mind that he just wants to ride with his buddies one more time. Graham got dealt like a rough. To me, Graham got dealt a rough hand. He coming here to be a right guard. Then he did pretty good that first year. Then Zeitler comes in, they move him over to left guard, and then Frank retires, and then they move him to center. I mean, that would have been tough for anybody. And yes, we need better production. You and I both noticed so much over the year that the center position was lacking. Was that part of us comparing him to Frank? Probably, but at the same time, his center play wasn't great. So, yeah, Graham was dealt a rough blow, but it's time to, like you said it perfectly. We gotta get younger at the position, and we got to grow some talent.
Definitely.
Yep. Today, Jake Bates was tendered, so he's what they call an exclusive rights free agent. Essentially, any player that becomes a free agent before they get 3 years of service is called an exclusive rights free agent, which means the Lions just basically have to offer them a contract. Now, Jake Bates does not have to sign the contract, but if he doesn't sign it, then he has to sit out. He can't play this year. And I believe if he came back, then he would be, eligible. He'd sit out for a year and then he could sign for whoever. But as of right now, the Lions will get him back on a veterans minimum, which is like less than 1.1 million. So we're getting a heck of a deal for Jake Bates, in my opinion.
Does he hold out and just sign that $10 million contract next season? Or,
Oh my God. Brandon Aubrey is going to ruin it for everybody, but not Brandon Aubrey's one of one. Jake Bates can kick the ball far, but he was definitely up and down last year. Rookie year, very good. Last year, up and down.
Agreed. And I think that salary is, it's a steal, but it's all fair, with all things considered. Coming, from the UFL and everything that he did. So, I mean,
yep,
this will be one last prove it year, and then we'll see what happens.
And then he'll get paid. I mean, we're gonna.
We hope that he does well enough that he gets paid, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't want this to be another up and down year where we talk about, is it the worst thing if we move on from him?
Yeah, that's the scary part, right? If he has let's say he has the same year as last year, Jacob. Let's use that as baseline. He has the same year as last year. Are you signing him to mid-level, like 5 million a year. Like the higher is 6 point. I think we said 6.7. Aubrey's going to beat that this year. We don't know what he's going to get. I mean, he's asking 10, but who knows? Let's say he gets 8. I mean, I don't think Bates is going to outpace Aubrey. Like if he's like, I'm just using hypothetical. He did what he did last year. If he did what he did last year, are you looking to move on? Are you happy with him? Or are you looking to sign him? I'm sure it's going to be around 5 million or so.
I mean, I'll say he was good, but not great, right? I mean, he left a little bit to be desired. It wasn't quite as automatic as we would hope it'd be. Also, maybe not as many opportunities because of, how frequently you go for it on 4th down and things like that versus the Cowboys. I mean, it's 4th and 1, but they're in, 58-yard field goal range. They're going to take that field goal, and we do not play that way. So that's why Brandon Aubrey maybe had more chances there. But I would say if he has an identical year to what he did last year, I mean, 5 million would be like top 5 kicker money, right?
Yeah.
Does the kicker market, reset and you're constantly paying kickers more and more every year? Not exactly. So, I mean, it would be hard to pick out a fair contract with how many other people that we have to pay. Not that I want to be, signing 3 or 4 kickers during training camp and trying to have one of these battles and changing kickers 4 or 5 times throughout the year. I want no part of that. And that's why it's good to have the continuity and that you hope he does play well. But that's tough for me if he has the same year to say, hey, we'll give you, top 3, top 5 kicker money. But I mean, do you think that's like a no-brainer just to keep the same kicker that he's done well enough? Or
I think 2 things play into that. Number one, I think you're right. Like we've been through it, right? Where we're signing 3 kickers by week 4. Like we don't want that, right? We went through that. Don't want that. Also, I think kickers are going to start getting paid more just because of what we saw last year. They changed the rules, and now you can get you get the kickballs during the week, and you could do whatever you want to do to manipulate them, and that's why they're way more accurate late. So these kickers are having amazing seasons, and therefore they're going to go to their agent's going to say, "Hey, my kicker, like Cam Little, kicked, broke the record. He's definitely deserves to be the highest paid kicker ever. He's kicked the longest field goal." They're going to have more ammunition because their stats are going to look better, or they can kick further, more accurately further. So I think that's all going to play into it. I think I definitely don't give, reset the market with Jake Bates, but he's got to get, I would say if he plays the way he plays last year, I bet you the Lions give him, I'll say top 6 money. I'd say somewhere in there. I don't know what that works out with, but top 5, top 6. I bet you that's what they give.
Just, I don't know if you already know this or not, but I mean, do you know what his kicking percentage was last year? His field goal percentage?
No, I don't. Go ahead. Yeah.
79%.
Yep.
I mean, that was 32nd in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you've got maybe like 5 or 6 of those people that are above him that only kicked less than 10 field goals. Let me see. 1, 2. Oh, there's only 2 people on that list that kick less than 10 field goals. Everybody else is in double digits. So, I mean, that's, 79%, and that's top 5 money.
I just think that his distance, I think the way the Lions view him is different than how we view him. The way Dave Phipp talks about him, I'm just going to stand on that. But
it's still about potential, right? We've seen how far he can kick it. We've seen what he's capable of. We've seen that potential. But also, I mean, now based on this year is where the contract part is going to come into play.
Mm-hmm. I will say his kickoffs got better too, and I do like the way we were very good on after most of it was covered stuff, but he was very good at kicking it at the consistently kicking in a corner at the 2-yard line, and they had to return it. He was very good at that. So, if he could, another trick to his bag, get a squib kick or something like that, just to add a wrinkle, that'd be awesome. Let's move on here, Jacob. So probably this week we're going to see at some point, I would say before Monday, certainly before next Wednesday, when free agency really, when they can really sign the contract. Goff and Amon-Ra, maybe Penei Sewell, all might be restructuring the deal. So are you expecting? I'm expecting that any time now. I'm kind of shocked that we haven't seen it yet.
Right. I kind of thought with the movement we've been having, we might hear about that today. What's the point in delaying that? That's almost inevitable. Goff for sure. But I mean, if you
Yes.
want the space that we need to like improve the team in free agency, if you're really, going for that, then Amon-Ra and Panay probably you restructure all of them. Then you've got a lot of money to work with.
Yeah, I'm curious how it's all going to shake out. Like, are they going to wait till Monday? Like, they could have like, I bet you they've already had the talks with the agents, right? They
Right.
probably have some contingency plans in place, and say Monday rolls around, we can't officially sign a contract till Wednesday. We need to be under the cap by Wednesday next Wednesday, the 11th. So you have if we have those conversations ahead of time, maybe some predetermined agreements, and then depending on who we go to sign or what comes up, maybe it'll trigger doing. And all we really need to do is essentially by Wednesday is to get under the cap, and then absorb any contracts that we sign in free agency. So we could also wait a little bit, and then do Amon-Ra Panay closer to the draft when we have to sign those draft picks. We could do that too, and then just play with it, as opposed to making that decision now and then that affects you in the years on future, and you really didn't need to do that right now.
That's why I think Goff for sure, and then Amon-Ra or Panay. I think that one of those two needs to be done right away, and then depending on where you're at, if you do the third, like the Cowboys today though, CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Smith, and Dak all got restructured.
Yep, saw that.
It was like something like $60 million or something that they made in space.
They had to though. I mean, they were pretty. Were they? How far were they? I mean, I know they're under the cap now, but were they in worse shape than us, or?
I don't have that in front of me right now. I believe that they were in a similar position.
They had to clear that money for Brandon Aubrey, man.
Yeah, right. That'll be announced tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. So while you're looking that up, combine rumors this week. Why don't you hit that up? Why don't you talk about what the rumors were, and we can kind of react to that.
This kind of goes with what we were just talking about the necessity to restructure, because there's been conflicting reports out of the combine that, I don't have their names, but I mean, you got one reporter saying, it sounds like the Lions could be like heavy hitters in free agency, and they may really be making a splash. And there's a lot of players that they're looking at. They could really be making some changes to the team. And then like the next day, there's other reports from somebody else at the combine, some other insider saying, sounds like the Lions are going to be relatively quiet during free agency and just focus on in-house contracts and building through the draft. So that leads us right back to square one where we are before, which is we don't know, we know this team pretty closely, and we don't even know what to expect out of free agency and what we're going to do.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. The report about us being like conservative was from Dave Burkett. So I don't know where the aggressive one came from, but Dave Burkett, and so Justin Rogers in his group chat thing that he's in that I'm a part of, he basically said that's agent talk. Like he equivocated to that, to like, the agents are, what they're hearing. He goes, that could be accurate and it could be way off. You just don't know. So we'll find out when everybody else finds out on Monday, Tuesday, as things start to heat up, who we're going to sign. I mean, last year we went in Monday, right? We got DJ Reed right away. Like we didn't know what we were going to expect. And we got one of the top corners in the league on day one. Lost one,
right?
And then we gained one on the same day. So
exactly, quick moving.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what to expect. Well, a Max Crosby type deal, it being the highest, and then signing, some backup offensive linemen as being the lowest. Are we closer to the Max Crosby, or are we closer to the backup offensive lineman next week when we have our podcast?
I think we're closer to the backup offensive lineman, right? Yeah. That's kind of seems to be the way we do things. It'll be somebody that's like, man, I've never even heard of that guy, and they'll have played like 8 years in the league. It's like, man, he's played for 3 different teams. He's been around. I'm not expecting any kind of splash like that. And I don't know, depending on who it is and how much we're paying, I don't know how, excited I personally would be. Obviously, the fans are always circling these big player names. Mm-hmm. And when we break down free agency in a little bit here, I've got like, the home run hitters versus my sleeper picks and things like that. But I definitely think of those two reports, especially with the one being Dave Burkett closer to the team, I think I would believe that one, right?
Yeah. Yep. I think it's going to be very similar to what we saw the last few years. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if we signed like some, a good center, a high center, high ranked center.
Right.
Not Lindebaum. I don't think we're going to be in the market for him. But someone in our list that's good. I could see us spending on offensive linemen as skill position players. I'd be really shocked if we spent any money on any skill position players. And
Just don't need
any
it.
edge that we would get, I don't think people are going to be like, they're not. It's not going to be Henderson. It's going to
Right.
be someone on this list that's going to play the Lions brand of football. And people don't really want to understand that the Lions don't want a speed rusher on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson. They don't. They want a guy that sets the edge. They just want a different type of player. And you're perfectly fine to argue with that and be mad about that. That's just the way that they play. So it's not that they're in my opinion, it's not that they're ignoring that. It's the fact that that's just not the way they want to play.
Right.
All right, Jacob. So today was let's talk about this. The Trent McDuffie deal. We don't need to like break down like the fairness of this deal. What I want to talk about is from a Lions perspective. Trent McDuffie goes from the Chiefs to the Rams for a first, a third, a fifth, and a 6th-round pick. I think the third is for next year, but the rest of those, the first, the fifth, and the sixth are this year. So that's how the Rams do business. And, we saw them in the playoffs last year. Obviously, they had a down year. The 1 year Stafford got hurt, and it was right after, they won the Super Bowl. Do you think, there are fans that want us to do this. There are fans that want us to just go all in on like this, but the Rams and the Rams are the example. Why, right? They keep doing this and they're in the playoffs. They've won a Super Bowl. So are you mad that the Lions don't do this? Do you think that we should do this? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, man, this is interesting because this is the perfect kind of comparison about like team building strategies and styles and what you could get.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we have a really good team, and we were just in the NFC Championship 2 years ago. But the Rams won a Super Bowl, and the Rams had one down year, and other than that, outside of like when they traded Jared Goff for Stafford, have been at the top, and they've only had one first-round pick that they've drafted, I believe, in the last it's been like 8 years or something like that.
And they hit huge on it, Jared Verse.
Yeah, exactly. This just goes to show like when that you're doing when you're strategic around it. That can work out for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know that I necessarily want. Right. I was just gonna say I don't know that I necessarily want to be like let's follow in their footsteps and just start losing all of our first round picks because we are the example of when you do hit on all of your picks, what your team can look like.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like Trent McDuffie, maybe not the player or the position that you would do this for, but say you saw this for Max. We gave first, third, fifth, and sixth up for Max. What's your level? Are you happy? Are you indifferent? Or where are you at on your?
I absolutely am ecstatic, and I would do that.
You would do that? You would give up first, third, fifth, and sixth?
So if they called, like, and that's funny that you mentioned that because, he's being shopped, right? Rumors are that he's being shopped. The Vegas favorite right now is the Bears. I don't want that. Micah Parsons in Green Bay, Max Crosby in Chicago. I don't want that at all.
No.
That's, especially if that's a possibility. If they're like, first, third, fifth, and sixth, and they're not all the same year, they're separate years as well. And then you get Max Crosby. That's huge, right? That's the impact player that we're talking about. That's somebody that wants to be here. Huge fan favorite. Instantly just ups the defense. That I would love that. The problem is then what the contract and what that means for everyone else later on.
Yeah.
How long do you keep Max Crosby for before you're trying to move him? Or does that mean that because we have Max Crosby, then we have to start shopping, Brian Branch or somebody else? I don't want that. So that's the problem, that I like the players that we have too, the in-house people that we need to keep. What comes of them when this kind of thing happens?
Yeah, I think when you say, hey, first, third, fifth, and sixth for Max, yeah, you're probably on the surface saying, yeah, I'd do that. It's the opportunity cost that you just mentioned, though. We're probably not going to be able to sign Laporta. maybe if a Branch gets thrown out there, or you got Gibbs, Campbell, Branch, and Laporta all coming up soon here. So you, now the injuries to the two of those players really complicates contracts, especially because they don't have a fifth-year option. Those two, they were second rounders. So we got it. We either let them, go into the free agency year, or we sign them to extension now or in the season. So I don't know how that's all going to shake out, but there's no way you can afford Max's contract. Aiden starts to bump up, next year, and be able to keep all those. Now you could also make the argument, if we, Kirby to me complicates it, but say Kirby was healthy in the back, could you afford to get Branch because you got two elite rushers? You saw what the Texans could just wreak havoc.
Right.
Just because they can, you can get to the quarterback so fast. So, it would definitely be a change of philosophy for the Lions defense and how they want to play. However, I will say that Max, is a full effort player, just like Aiden Hutchinson. So he's gonna be giving it all. So I'm okay with it from that perspective, because it's definitely a philosophy fit, a grit fit, whatever you want to call it. He'll fit in here. It's more than the draft picks. It's what you're giving up, later on down the line. However, would it make this year's really, really, really exciting? Yeah, it would make this year really, really, really exciting. Oh,
Right.
that would be
But
amazing.
that's also when you're, for whatever reason, for the Rams, it's like they constantly are like right on the cusp. And when they're making these trades, they're helping their team, and they're like right there every single year, it feels like.
Yeah.
I mean, last year, they could have done it last year too. Obviously, Seahawks beat them. That Seahawks went on to win the Super Bowl. That could have just as easily been the Rams. The Rams have a better cornerback, to slow down the Seahawks offense, and maybe that's over with. That's clearly what they're looking for, is that's the missing piece.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's just talk about the Terrion Arnold thing. We've got Terrion Arnold. That was a first round pick. If we did not have that first round pick, if we had traded that for a cornerback, or, like whatever it had been at the time, if we traded that for Max Crosby and went a different way, a free agent cornerback instead, would the team have worked out better?
Yeah. I mean, Trent McDuffrey's got to get paid too, so he's got a contract that you're going to have to pay. Whereas Terrion, we've been paying,
or whoever the first round pick is. I mean,
right.
I don't know how much Trent McDuffrey's contract is. Obviously, Terrion was a first round pick, so his is going to be.
Well, I think Trent McDuffrey is. I think he's at the end of his rookie deal, as far as I know. But then he's projected to sign an extension. Like, the Rams aren't going to do this unless he signs an extension. I mean, they're not going to trade 4 draft picks for a 1-year rental. They that I'm sure the extension has to be on their mind. I do want to talk about the Bears' Drew Dahlman retiring. That was huge news. Oh my gosh, that blew my mind when I saw that.
Yeah, that was unexpected. Now the Bears fans know how we feel with Frank, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You thought everything was cool, and then it turns out, wait, no, it's not. Yeah. Now we have a massive hole on our team.
I know. That's got to be a gut punch for Ben Johnson. Drew Dahlman was 27 years old. He young guy, just made the Pro Bowl. Interesting. I mean, the reports aren't out of why he did it. Like, was it a personal choice? Does he have some health issues that we don't know about? Is Caleb Williams nail polish getting on his butt too much? We don't know. What's the
Caleb being back there so much made him too uncomfortable. He can't do it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. He's just like, oh, this is very uncomfortable. So I don't know. I'm curious, like, the story behind that. However, anything to make there's 2 sides to this for me. It's good because it diminishes, like, the talent on the Bears overall. The bad thing is it happened before free agency, so it adds another person in the center market, right? And we're in that market possibly. So I don't like that, because that, increases demand, which increases price, right?
Right. Don't need a bidding war with anybody.
Yeah. And the Bears have been sniffing around Linderbaum, and oh my God, you want to talk about a meltdown if we don't get Linderbaum and the Bears do? Oh my God. The stuff with Brad Holmes and bikinis and clown suits will start rearing their faces again.
Right. Oh, people are gonna be angry. just as if Max Crosby gets traded. I mean, if he gets traded anywhere other than Detroit, especially if you find out it was only for like 1 first and then later round picks, I mean,
Yeah,
people are going to have a field day with that.
they are. The only other thing that I guess I find, well, Kyler Murray getting cut, or he hasn't officially been cut, but the talk, they said next week. That's probably because they're trying to work out a trade, but that's probably not going to happen. If when he gets cut, then people could sign him for a lesser deal. So I'm curious where he goes. I think I mentioned like Minnesota. Like I don't want to see him go to Minnesota. Be a Kevin O'Connell recovery project. He goes there for 1 year. He has a good year, and then he goes and makes a bag somewhere else. So I don't want to see him in Minnesota. He'd have to play for a smaller deal because I don't think Minnesota has. They're already 40 million over in the cap.
They have no money, right?
And they're cutting everybody. So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting that they decided to cut Kyler Murray, and then the AJ Brown stuff on the trade block. I want nothing to do with AJ Brown. I don't think he'd be a fit at the Lions, but for any team, he's a dynamic player. There's no doubt about it. But I wouldn't want him on the team. He doesn't get full effort all the time.
Yes, that's exactly what I was just gonna say. Is that's also when he's giving maximum effort, which you don't see very often. He's constantly seems like he's got an issue with somebody on the team or something. Plays not going his way, the target's not going his way. We just do not need anybody like that. With the Kyler Murray stuff, though, I mean, like real quick, just to gloss over, like Stephon Diggs was cut by the Patriots today as well. But that's the same kind of thing. Like we don't need anybody who thinks they're above the team, and it's going to be causing any sort of issue.
Well, he's got off the field stuff too. Like you don't want to touch that.
Yeah, he might not even be signed, right?
Right.
But Kyler Murray, let's say hypothetically, Kyler Murray wants to follow Petzing and just is like, hey, I'll play, on this really, really cheap deal. I'll come to Detroit, back up Jared Goff, learn, this is not anything that I consider even being in the cards. But like, let's say that, you're Brad Holmes. We have a chance to add Kyler Murray to the team for a really cheap deal. You got to pay him more than, Kyle, but would you be open to adding Kyler Murray to the team? Or do you think like, we don't want to touch this. We don't want the distraction. He's way too different of a quarterback than Jared Goff.
Man. Well, I think the wild card here is that you have Petzing, right? He's worked directly with him. If Petzing signs off, then I'd be interested. Just because Petzing's going to see the Kyler Murray that none of us see. He'll know, like, does this guy study? Is he in the playbook? Is he going to be able to tolerate being a backup QB? Like, all that stuff. Like, I think Petzing, I mean, you may not know 100%, but he'll have a very, very good read after being in Arizona the last few years to know what Kyler Murray could handle. Would Kyler Murray be an upgrade over Kyle Allen? Oh, heck yeah. And he gives you the legs issue that
right.
That I think is important for a backup quarterback, because like a backup quarterback isn't getting all the first team snaps. He's got to be able to improvise a little bit. In no way do I want Kyler Murray being my starter quarterback, but say Jared Goff went down, I feel definitely a lot more comfortable with Kyler Murray in there than I would Kyle Allen.
Yeah, but, no, it's interesting because the Petzing stuff, but it's also, if they do just straight up cut him, which we envision that they're not going to be able to trade him, they're going to have to cut him. They're going to have to eat it. He's already been paid a lot of money from Arizona. He's going to continue to get money from Arizona. So this may be like the Russell Wilson situation, right? Where he's like, okay, well, you know what? I'll just sign for, the minimum. I'll sign for $1 million just to go somewhere. Would that be for Kyler Murray if he's going to sign somewhere like Detroit, though? That would not be necessarily like betting on yourself. That's almost like riding out the market and seeing what you have versus trying to go like to Minnesota and signing for minimum where you have a chance to start and potentially earn another contract.
Yeah, I just don't see that it's going to be in the cards, because I think, depending on what Aaron Rodgers does, like the Steelers are definitely an option for Kyler Murray to go to. The Jets are obviously an option. Atlanta could be an option. As far as like starting jobs, Miami would be another place that he could go to start. So like he'll have options to go and start and obviously make more money. So unless like he is not like, I don't know what his injury status is. I think he could have came back because they decided to just shelve him. But I think even last year he could have come back. So, if maybe he had a lingering issue and he was going to be out for a little bit, maybe he doesn't want to showcase like that when he's not 100% going to that contract, maybe getting a backup deal for a year, learning in, place a great offense like Detroit or something like that would be an option. If that happened, it would blow my mind, but he's got to get a starting job somewhere. There's too many of them out there, and he's looked at as too dynamic to be sitting on the bench. Be interesting. I don't know.
I got another question for you. If you're Kyler Murray and your agent's calling around and it's like, man, there's not a lot of interest out there. The Jets are potentially wanting to sign you, or you can go back and try to play baseball again. If you're Kyler Murray, do you go to New York or do you just say, you know what, maybe I'm going to give the baseball thing a try now?
Man, I don't know. Like, first of all, going to play baseball now, like I saw that on Twitter. Like, dude, there's guys that sit in the minor leagues forever. There's top guys that go in the minor leagues for 2 or 3 years because, when's the last time he's picked up a baseball bat? And even if it's been recently, when's the last time that he's seen a pro slider, or anything like that? It just, if he did that, that'd be like
the show.
That'd be like Tim Tebow stuff, where I'm going to just try this and, and some people sign him.
I forgot that Tebow even did that.
Yeah. Mets, man. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Mets wanted.
Hey, he sold a lot of tickets.
Yeah,
he sold a lot of tickets.
He did, and it was, similar vein as a Jordan type thing. It's all publicity. Yeah. It's not serious. But yeah, Mekhi Becton was cut too, and we kind of did talk about that. But that's a guard that's going to be on the market. So I don't know, if we're going to be interested in that. But that'd be one. Jawan Taylor also cut. I'm not interested in the false start machine himself.
Exactly.
But Mekhi Becton may be on the radar depending on the contract that he gets. All right. We've bumped up. We're at, 55 minutes right now. Let's, talk about the free agent list. So talk about the Lions free agents first. So I looked at 2 lists, Jacob. I did the NFL top 100 and then ESPN just came out with one of their lists. It is updated with the players that were cut, like all the way up, like Kyler Murray's on the list and stuff like that. So for the NFL top 100, the lists are vastly different. I don't know if you compared the list, but they are vastly different. The NFL has 2 Lions on it. DJ Reader is at 59 and Al-Quadin Muhammad's 83. And on the ESPN list, there are 2 Lions on it. Al-Quadin Muhammad again at 91 and Alex Anzalone is at 47. So NFL top 100 didn't put Anzalone in the top 100, which I think is a huge mistake. I think he's one of the top 100 free agents.
The NFL one came out first, and I went up and down. Like I went through the list on my phone twice, and then I had to do like on the computer where you like Control F search, like where's he at? Like man, he's really not on this list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which was really interesting.
Well, the number 1 on the NFL list is insane to me. Do you know who it is?
I think they updated it. When they first posted that list, the number 1 they had was Malik Willis.
It's still Malik Willis. Number 1 is Malik Willis. Where I get it, like, okay, quarterbacks are going to be ranked higher, but Malik Willis, really? Like, this is like a Scott Mitchell thing. Lions fans know what Scott Mitchell is. Comes in and does, and Dan Marino's back up. I think Malik Willis has looked good, but man, would you be, you got to sign up for top free agent money at a quarterback,
right?
Having like so few starts, I don't know. Their excuse for him being up there is they looked at it as the draft. So if you have any quarterbacks as in the draft, you're going to move them up to number 1, no matter if they are the top talent at all. And I don't look at that as equivalent at all. I don't know.
But if you're a team looking for top talent, I mean, chances are you're probably picking towards, or if you're a team looking for a top quarterback, chances are you're picking towards the top of the draft anyway. Yeah. So then you've got your option. Do we pay this guy a bunch of money and bring him in and see what he's got? Or do we just draft the player that we, have had eyes on and presumably have been scouting for a long time?
And it'd be much cheaper. Presumably going to be much cheaper than what they're going to sign Malik Willis. Yeah. Jalen Phillips is high on both lists. Linderbaum's high on both lists. Now, Kyler Murray's number 4 on the NFL list. I think he's like in the teens 17 on the ESPN list. So my question for you, Jacob, who in either one of these lists or any free agents that maybe aren't on this list, do you have any players that you're looking at?
I have like in-depth things that I have on here, and we don't have a whole
Okay.
lot of time anymore to go in depth. But I'll start just like quick with the positions that I have. Linebacker. We're not bringing Anzalone back, so well, presumably we're not bringing Anzalone back. We'll see. That's still obviously on the table, but let's say that we're not. The other linebackers that are on here, you're going to be paying just as much or more than Anzalone. Um,
Hmm.
the interesting one for me on here is Leo Chenal from Kansas City. So his projected contract will be $6 million a year, and that's somebody that has played really well, but in a very limited capacity. So he's younger, he's faster. Is that somebody that you bring in? He's got good pass rush ability. Do you bring somebody in like that? And then also, is that somebody that you want to replace Alex Anzalone? The other sleeper pick, Quincy Williams from the Jets. I mean,
Yeah.
a terrible year last year, but I mean, just the year before that and the year before that, he's like all pro level, and that's
Hmm.
somebody that potentially you could get for maybe 5 or 6 million a year.
Yep.
So those
Prove it
sleeper
deal or
picks, I
something
think,
like
are
that.
more likely than some of the top linebackers like Devin Lloyd, the Jaguars linebacker. That would be huge to get somebody like that. But
Yep.
obviously, we're not going to be able to spend 15-20 million on Devin Lloyd.
Yep. Yeah, I would like, when I looked at it, I was like, a pass rush linebacker is what we need. Like, I like Alex is a really good cover, but if we're going to continue playing the defense we have and sending linebackers, we need someone that could pass rush from back there. So, like, a Caden Ellis would be a
Right.
cheaper option than a Devin Lloyd. So, like, that's someone that I'd be looking at. I don't know if we're going to go there, but that's if we're going to go in the linebacker room and, we're not going to bring Alex back. I want someone that can. I would rather have someone that could rush the passer, that could get in there because that's how Shep has wanted to play. He's been wanting to rush the linebackers, and last year they just, you know, may have gotten pressures, but they were so late that they just did not affect the play. So I want
Right.
someone that can get there quickly if we're going to play the same style defense. Now they could change things around, and in that case, I don't think a linebacker as is needy if we, get some more pressure up the middle from defensive tackle or an edge, depending on how they want to play. So, is there any edges that you're interested in that list? Do you got any edges on your list?
There's a few of them, but my thing is, it's always about the money and where does it fit. Trey
Yeah,
Hendrickson right now projected to get like a 21 million a year contract. So
yeah,
obviously that's high. That's not something that we're going to be willing to do, especially for his age and everything. However, you've got some people further down, like Quiddy Pay from
yes,
Michigan. Went to Indianapolis. That's somebody that maybe $9-10 million a year, and that's also somebody that could be power, sets the edge, and kind of does what the Lions want him to do. You also have the veteran Cameron Jordan out there. You could probably get him on a 1 year deal. Maybe he's a little bit more fresh than like I know Khalil Mack's name's been thrown out there a lot, but you know, Kaylavon Chason is on there. That's somebody that's been very up and down and somebody that's probably looking to get paid. So I don't envision that happening. The Seahawks guy, Boye Mafe, also somebody that's going to be getting paid. He's probably going to price
yeah,
himself out of us. But I do have two sleeper picks for edge that I think could be effective without breaking the bank. Um, the Falcons player Arnold Ebiketie. So that's somebody who I think is just coming off his rookie deal. He was kind of pushed out because the Falcons got James Pierce and because they, enhanced other edge rushers. That's somebody we could maybe be getting for a steal, or because of James Pierce ruining it, that could be somebody that now the Falcons are trying to get and pay. And then Arden Key out of Tennessee for the Titans. That's somebody else that's been kind of up and down that you could maybe get on a cheaper deal without having to guarantee a whole lot.
yep. And that's probably where the Lions are looking there too. The Quiddy Pay one is interesting. Of all the edges that are in that top list, he's the guy that fits what the Lions want the most on that. Like he's not going to give you a ton of pass rush, but he's going to set the edge and do exactly. He's super strong. He's going to do exactly what the Lions like. Um, I'm gonna Sheldon Rankins is the only other defensive lineman that I have on my list that just someone to think about. He gives you a little bit of pass rush. He's not going to break the bank, obviously, and he's probably going to be on a 1 or 2 year deal. So you're not gonna, you're not gonna have to sign a big contract. I want to talk about offensive linemen. I just have two Connor McGovern is my guy. Like if we sign this guy, we get him from Buffalo, then I think center set, and I'm happy with it. As long as we're not breaking the market, which Lindebaum's going to set the market, and I think McGovern, it could be wait till Lindebaum signs and then McGovern goes and gets a deal just below that. But I'm hoping that the Lions are in the market for him, and that would make, if we get him, I'll be pretty happy with free agency. To be honest with you, I'll be like, okay, we've set the interior of our line. I mean, obviously, I want to get other players or secondary players, but if that's the front line player that we get, I'll actually be pretty happy with that. The other dark horse candidate that I have that could we sign Kevin Zeitler? Could Zeitler come back and they move Tate over to center? Could Zeitler be, come back in, play right guard, and then, if they decide they're going to move Tate over to center, that would be my dark horse candidate.
Zeitler is also like 35, 36 now.
Exactly.
And did not have the best year last year. You'd be hoping he'd be able to recreate what he did for us the year before that. Agreed, though. I've got Connor McGovern on the top of my list also. That would be, a home run signing, in my opinion. Also, you've got the aspect. Linderbaum right now is projected to get $20 million, maybe even more than that on an average annual value. So if you're Connor McGovern, if you're waiting for Linderbaum to sign his contract so that you can try to get as close to his contract as possible, maybe you then price yourself out of what the Lions are comfortable paying you.
Yep.
Because right now his projected is about 12 or 13 million. Let's say Linderbaum signs for 22. Maybe that 12 or 13 for McGovern being the top center on the market, and the Bears and other teams looking for a center, that 12 or 13 maybe becomes 15, 16. Like I said, don't want a bidding war. There's some interesting guards on this list too, though, like Isaac Samalo from Pittsburgh. He's available. David Edwards, who is a guard from the Bills, he's out there. And then Elijah Vera Tucker, who is the guard for the Jets, who top 10 player when he's healthy, but keeps having these season-ending injuries. And I know that's not what Lions fans want to hear, is that here's another injury-prone player. But, I mean, somebody like that has good production when healthy, maybe he would be willing to sign a one-year deal to come to Detroit. Obviously, he's been playing for the Jets for so long, he doesn't know what winning football is like. If he has that sort of opportunity here in Detroit, maybe he'd be willing to sign like a one-year deal, and we could just see what he has. Maybe not a lot guaranteed. Who knows? Based on what he's put on the field, somebody may be willing to pay him that, $15 million a year or something like that. But that's just somebody else that I had my eye on.
All right. I don't know how many other people you have on your list. I just have two more. And I looked at running backs because obviously we have an opening now when we could go in the draft or whatever. But the two names that Aaron Jones I don't think has officially been released yet. But Aaron Jones is a 1B to Gibbs. I find very interesting. I don't know what he's going to sign for, but I bet you it's going to be comparable to David Montgomery money. And so I'm curious about that. The other guy that's a free agent this year, played with the guy that was drafted with Jahmyr Gibbs. That's Tyler Algier. That, he is that big back that, you need a few yards, you could give it to him. And he's been a running mate with Bijan now. Now maybe Tyler wants to go to a place where he's not next to a Bijan Robinson or Gibbs, and maybe he's looking for that opportunity. But he would be someone that if we could get for a reasonable amount, I'd be interested in him.
Yeah. I looked through the running backs. The Aaron Jones thing is very interesting. If he's willing to sign, and I think said this to you too, but I mean, if he wants to sign so that he can play the Vikings and can play the Packers, let him come. If he's not trying to break the bank, if he's okay with signing, hey, a little bit of money, let me beat up on these guys. Let me be the 1B, fill the David Montgomery role. Honestly, that's probably a better situation for him too, because he's trying to get healthy, right? He's trying to stay healthy. He's trying not to get beat up like that. So it might be the perfect situation for Aaron Jones to come here. But when I look at these other running backs, none of them are really doing it for me. Tyler Algier would be cool, but like you kind of just said, he's been in the shadow of Bijan for so long. I'm sure he wants to see what's out there to try to get some more carries. He does not want to go, Bijan and Jahmyr get compared so much about who's better, who's the top one. There's no way he wants to come back up Jahmyr Gibbs. That's not what he's looking for right now. Yeah, and the other running backs are available. I just don't see a comparable David Montgomery or somebody that would be willing to sign. There are people further down this list that I think are more likely, but nobody that will replicate what David Montgomery had. The only other position that I had a couple people mentioned on is safety.
Okay.
And that's just because I
it's
want to
good
try to
thought.
see who was out there. I mean, Brian Cook is the top safety available, and he's projected to get $12 million a year. He's out of KC. Cameron Curl from the Rams projected to get $8 million a year, and then Kevin Byard from the Bears $9 million. It'd be nice to steal Byard away from the Bears, but I also don't feel like he's gonna, I don't feel like he's gonna be able to do what he did last year.
Yeah. Interceptions are tough, and especially the way I saw the very fluky interceptions. They kind of just what I thought fell to him. Brisker for the Bears is also free agent. So both of the starting safeties for the Bears are free agents this year. But yeah, safety was a spot that I looked and I didn't see anybody on the list that I was like, oh yeah, I really want to have this guy. We definitely need some safety help back there. We need to have a contingency plan. We need to have guys ready to play in case Branch or Kirby's not able to go. It's whether how much do we want to spend on this player, because obviously you don't want to go frontline and then you got Kirby. But I think next year it's going to be a tough year because you're going to know a lot more about Kirby, and Kirby may be subject to being out, and then in that case you're really going to have to sign a safety. So do you sign, like, is there a developmental safety that's out there that you could get him on the roster now, develop him, and maybe he gets some playing time because Kirby can't go, and then we'll know next year whether we want to keep this guy or not. So it'll be interesting what they do, and I definitely expect safety, us to sign safety, whether it'll be next week or the second or third round of free agency, as the less desirable guys get out there and you get the more reasonable contracts. It'll be interesting to see. But I'd be shocked if we don't bring a safety or two in.
We have to. It's just like you said, I looked at some of the top guys out there. None of them are really doing it for me, and they're all going to be expensive, more so than we're willing to, for what we're hoping, a little bit later in the season, it's going to be a third safety that is a rotational piece. So, I do have one more thing on here, though. So I want to know, I don't know if you have this in front of you, if you've looked into this. Do you think that there are any free agents from Arizona that want to follow Petzing and come here? Do you think Petzing has some people? I've got a list right here.
If you got a list, I just have one name. And I'll let you do your list. So sorry if I take someone for the wide receiver. Is it Dortch or what's the wide receiver?
Greg
yeah.
Dortch,
Okay. Dortch. Because I think he plays special teams. As far as I know, he plays special teams. So you're looking for someone for Khalif, and yes, that would be the plug-in for Khalif. So that's what I'm thinking. Now I'm sure there's some offensive linemen that's probably on your list, but I'll let you go because that's a good topic. I'm glad you brought that up.
Right. Yeah, Dortch, really small receiver, fast. Exactly like you just said, would be like a replacement for Khalif, not somebody if we're keeping Khalif, it wouldn't make sense to have somebody like that on there. I just have a list of people that I think were most likely, not necessarily who I think is going to, because I've got a lot of them on there. So the running backs for the Cardinals that are free agents, Bam Knight, who was with the Lions in 2023, but he just spent time with the Cardinals. Michael Carter. And then the running back, Emery DeMarcado. Those are the three running backs that were in Arizona. There's a chance.
Did you say you didn't say James Conner, did you?
I did not say James Conner.
Because there's rumors of him. There's rumors of him being cut. So that's another one you could throw on.
He's not a current free agent, so he wasn't on the list. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, obviously somebody like that would be huge. That would be a really good get. Mm-hmm. But somebody that also is probably looking for money, whereas DeMarcado, somebody like that probably willing to pay or play for less, and just the opportunity to play for the Lions and be part of a better offense. The offensive linemen that they have: offensive tackle Jonah Williams, offensive tackle Kelvin Beachum, offensive guard Will Hernandez. All three of these guys were rated pretty low last year. I don't know if it's just how the Cardinals offense was going or if it really was just their performance. So nobody that's like, oh man, I hope this person comes. But there are offensive linemen that are free agents that are familiar with Petzing that may come, could even be training camp bodies or just come with no promise, but an offer to compete. And then they've got 2 tight ends here, Pharaoh Brown and Josiah DeGuara, who are both, primarily blocking, a little bit of receiving, but I mean, also people that could follow him and be camp bodies and try to fight for a roster spot. There is not a Sam Laporta clone out there, so
No, well, Trey McBride is not coming to. He's not there. Arizona's not going to let him go.
yeah, no, not a free agent, right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Dortch is like that's the only one that when I've looked through the list, that's the only one I'm like, okay, I could see him in Honolulu Blue if Khalif isn't here. Like that'd be the only caveat. Like I don't think he comes here unless that happens. So, all right, man. Anything before we take off here?
No, nope, I'm good.
It's gonna be good. Next week will be a busy day of looking at Twitter on Monday, right? Just staring, and I'm expecting a lot of text flying between us, which will be fun. That's always a good time. I just don't like to see if I hope I don't see any one word swear text from you because that'll be that the Bears signed someone or someone that you wanted went somewhere else. But it'll be interesting.
Hang on, we got a question in the chat. I don't know.
Oh yes, yeah. Thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
Hang on 1 second. So WM2, yes. Any thoughts on the defensive tackle the Vikings just released? So you kind of mentioned this earlier. The Vikings have been forced to cut a lot of players, and which we knew they're way over the cap. This was expected, but the Vikings announced that they're expected to release defensive tackle Jonathan Allen. He signed for $16 million last year.
Yeah.
Is that somebody that you want? Obviously, seems like DJ Reader is not going to be coming back.
Yeah.
We have Tyleek, we have Aleem. What are your thoughts on?
I'm okay with him, but we're probably not for the price that we would have to pay for him. Right. It's what it is. Like, do you want him? Yeah, because he can get up the field, right? And he could provide some pressure. But Tyleek's gonna be Aleem and Tyleek, and you're hoping Aleem has the big rebound year. I don't see that happening. Not for the money. I am happy that Minnesota has to keep cutting players, though. It makes me very, very, very happy.
Right. Yes, just the whole team.
Yeah,
whittle them down.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's somebody else on the surface. Yeah, great. Maybe not great anymore. He's a good player, good depth. But somebody like that is probably still looking for 10+ million a year, and that's not something the Lions are willing to. That's just not in the cards.
Yeah, and I don't even know if he exactly plays how the Lions want him interior guys to play. I don't know. They want them to stuff the run and just take up space. Like Tyleek's going to do that. Aleem can do that, but Aleem's going to be the guy that they hope they can get up the field. I'm hoping that he looks more like the game that when he came back to the first game, and that was with Tampa Bay last year, and he was getting right in the quarterback, and we're like, all right, but we just really didn't see Aleem do that. Now, part of that was that we had him playing on the edge, which it still irks me to this day. So
we got to fix that.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, man, baseball's starting soon. Kevin McGonigal, I got to talk to you about Kevin McGonigal. This guy's going to make the team, right? He's got to make it right out of spring training.
He 100% has earned that roster spot. I have not, we talked a little bit because I know that before in the past, like they had to wait like 15 days or something to add him to the roster to get like that extra year of service time.
Yeah.
And you said that that's not the case, or the language in the contracts is different now, or
they've changed it so like there's some sort of incentive to the team to not do that. And I don't know what it is, and I should have looked it up but I think it was like
I know because they're eligible for like postseason awards, and I know that if they win like a Gold Glove or Silver Slugger, or like if they win any or Rookie of the Year, maybe it's like top 5. Like if they win anything like that, then it doesn't matter; they still get that year anyway. That's the way it used to be, I think. But yeah, I don't know what the change is now, but I guess
I don't think the Lions or the Tigers are going to be in a position to like not put him on the team. In fact, what I'm seeing, what's going to happen, the way I see it, is that Parker Meadows is not going to make the team. Javi Baez is going to be our starting center fielder, and McGonigal is going to be our shortstop. That's how I see this.
That's how you envision this happening.
That's how I see it happening. Now they've had McGonigal over at third base, but the Tigers like to move people around. They like to get everybody on the field. So getting him multiple so that when Hobby plays shortstop, then McGonigal moves over to third base. Colt Keith is another guy. We got Gleyber Torres back here. Your doppelganger, Gleyber Torres,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And we got him back. And so that'll be interesting because that, like, if Gleyber didn't come back, then you think Colt Keith goes into the second spot. Well, I don't know. They got Colt Keith playing over at third base, and I think they played him at first base a little bit last year too. Jace Young's playing over at first base. It's going to be, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes.
I was just going to say, don't exactly know how the opening day lineup's going to look.
No, Max has looked a little bit overmatched. He's had some troubles in center. He blew a ball yesterday in center field. Lost a couple in the sun. He's not going to be making the jump this year. But McGonigal, what was awesome yesterday is that leadoff home run on the first pitch, and that's against Severino. This is about, a good pitcher. It's not like he's out there against AAA pitchers is bombing it. It was the first pitch. He smoked that. And then he got a 2-run single the very next at bat. Like, solid stroke, got a great bat. He's already got a good eye. Like, he sees pitches. Like, he's exactly what you want. And anything that give us more offense would be be awesome. So
right.
I'm thinking that the only way he doesn't make the team is if there is some of those service time shenanigans. But I'm pretty sure they've incentivized the team to do that. To not play those games. So I don't know.
That seems like a weird loophole that they would put in to begin with, like a 15-day window. Like, why 15? What is that? Yeah, that's almost like putting a safeguard for these teams to steal a year out of these players.
It is. It's exactly right. And like, I gotta say, I bet if whatever's in place, like I think they negotiate next year, like or at the end of this year, like December, and at the new CBA, and all that's going to change. And they're talking about a salary cap, and I hope that a salary cap happens.
They need a salary cap, and
these
deferred payments and all this stuff is ridiculous.
Yes, they need to get rid of all that crap. And I know that salary cap's not perfect, and we talk about in the NFL or whatever, but the fact that the Dodgers can go out and sign Kyle Tucker to huge money after they just win the World Series and have like they already have an all-star lineup, and then they add Kyle Tucker, the best free agent on the market.
You pay him like $3 million this year because all of his money is deferred later on.
Yeah,
like all your contracts are deferred. Like, what is that?
It's got to end, and it's
right.
And I know the players may not want a salary cap just because it's got to get out these big 10-year $300 million deals, but you got to also think about the health of the game, and you can't just have 5 teams in it every year, and the rest of us have to get lucky and draft really well, or just everything lines up. Because you look at what's happening with Scoobo, we're going to be priced out of them because Dodgers or Yankees are going to pay crazy amounts. So, all right, man. We've talked about the Tigers, we've talked about the Lions. Pistons are, lost last game, so we could skip them. And the Red Wings, they just got back from the Olympics, so
they're blowing it right now.
They are. Yeah, I know. All right, man.
Oh, they did. They lost.
Oh, did they lose? They blew
overtime.
It then.
In the last 5 minutes, they were going to overtime. They blew it. They tied it, and now the Vegas won in overtime. Must have been pretty quickly.
Yeah, hopefully they get on a good streak there. Larkin tasted gold, so I want him to taste the Stanley Cup too.
Yeah, right, man.
All right, for Jacob, I'm Jason. We'll get back with you next week. I anticipate us be on Wednesday. However, something huge happens, you might hear from us earlier. So we'll see how that goes. So one thing to say though, go Lions.